staying with us in this special broadcast of the Urban Debate, where we put the spotlight on the union budget, help you analyze it to understand how it impacts you, how it could make your life better or easier or even worse, and what segments has the government made big allocations, and where will we have to really benefit from it, and if there is any financial jugglery involved. All of those conversations will happen in just a bit. But first up, let me go across to Mr. Niranjan Hiranandani, joining me this evening for a very special conversation. Mr. Hiranandani, there's been quite a bit of expectation for the real estate sector and even retail, tourism, SMEs, MSMEs, you know, the parts of corporate India who were badly hit. The budget doesn't seem to have addressed them directly. But is there something in the budget that makes the industry a little more confident today?
Three parts, Tanvi, for your answer. The first part is the Prime Minister had the target of 1.1 crore houses in the affordable housing scheme for housing for all. That target has been budgeted for and it is going on time. So by 2022, it will be completed. Now that's a big victory for the Prime Minister, an unbelievable one, so to say. So that's the first story. The second part of it is that they have continued the benefits for the affordable housing sector. Unfortunately, the cap of the amount for the house is 45 lakhs, which doesn't work for metro cities like Mumbai and Delhi. So the benefit of this affordable housing scheme does not come into those cities and areas. So that's the negative part of the whole thing. Third, that they have continued a tax-free regime for affordable housing. The GST in that segment is only 1% as compared to 5% otherwise. And there's a 3% subvention which is available on interest for 15 years under the PMAY scheme. So all that has been continued. So that part is good. What, on the other hand, if you look at the REIT and other aspects, the investment in the REIT will go up. So those investments on the commercial side are definitely looking at a positive. So what is missing? The missing part is the middle segment, and the middle segment has been left aside. So things like above 45 lakhs of rupees, the benefits have not come. So those in the urban sectors like Mumbai, Delhi, other towns where the price of property is above 45 lakhs or above 60 square meters, it is definitely not given any further benefit in the housing sector. So within rounds, I would say that they have tried to cover the affordable segment and the other segment, which is the REIT segment. So we are missing a lot of it in the middle segment. However, one thing which has happened in the last 4 months, which is what was done by Maharashtra government in terms of reducing the stamp duty from 5% to 2%, a 3% reduction. And that completely changed the housing sector in terms of ready products, under construction progress, and there has been a 67% increase in turnover year to year, not from COVID month to this segment. From the last 4 months of 2019, sales in Maharashtra to 2020 sales in Maharashtra and for the 4 months where the stamp duty was reduced was a paradigm change. So all these things have been done because of a collateral advantage on it. So that's as far as housing sector is concerned. I think we have that view. But on the allied sectors, I think the infrastructure sector is something I am personally delighted. In ASSOCHAM, we had represented this very strongly, and that has come out extremely well. So we think that the metro, the roads, the highways, all this is going to have a multiplier effect. And between housing and urban infrastructure, we have 15% of the total employment of India is under these two sectors and 7% of the GDP. So, and this causes 260 industries to come up in a multiplier factor and employment for people who are unskilled and skilled. So I think this is something which we really needed to push forward, and we are looking at it as a very positive story in these two directions.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Hiranandani, for joining me at this hour and really, breaking it down for us, the pluses and the minuses. I appreciate the, frankness and the honesty that with which you've actually helped us break down this budget. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Well, let's move on and get to the big political debate. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, few weeks ahead of the budget, said, well, this is going to be a budget like never before. And as far as the government is concerned, today they came out and made announcements of a record-breaking allocation for the healthcare segment of 2.2 lakh crore rupees, much, much higher than what you usually see of about 70,000 odd crore rupees. The government also made a massive announcement in terms of spending for infrastructure projects. They were upfront about the fact that yes, we acknowledge that the government has to start off and lead by example when it comes to spending money, setting up new projects, and this is the only way to revive the economy. So the government has said that yes, they are going to borrow more money and a lot more of money if required. They don't care about the fiscal deficit being within 3% or 4% right now. They understand that even if lower revenues, lesser tax money is coming in, they need to spend. And that's the kind of honesty and that the government presented that is being appreciated. On the other hand, for the common man, the first big question that we usually hear is, well, what about my tax? Well, your income tax hasn't really changed much. Few minor tweaks here and there to make life simpler is what it is. As far as the other taxes are concerned, on the GST front, we leave it to the GST Council. There are changes in the tax structure, but that still doesn't impact the money that you will have to pay for fuel or even for some of these other products which are imported. So yes, there is an agri-cess that the government has brought in for fuel, petrol and diesel, an agri-cess even for imports of gold bars and silver bars, some of your pulses, imported alcohol beverages, but all of that really gets absorbed in because of a change in the tax structure. So the loss could be for the state governments who don't get the same share as they were till now, but the loss is not going to be yours. But the opposition has come out and said, well, the poor have been betrayed, the migrants have been betrayed, the farmers have been betrayed. The defense wasn't even mentioned. The SMEs and the MSMEs have been forgotten, even though they were expecting a lot. So there are big question marks that the opposition is actually putting to this budget, saying, well, yeah, this is like never before, but not really in a good sense. So tonight we're going to break it down sector by sector and have the two sides battle it out here on the special edition of the Urban Debate with me and our managing editor Vinay Tiwari, who continues to be with me in our studios. Let me also say good evening to Aman Sen, our spokesperson for the BJP and a senior advocate as well, joins us this evening. Dr. Ajay Kumar, Congress spokesperson with us. Professor Om Prakash Mishra, spokesperson for the TMC. Dr. Fuad Halim of the CPIM. Mr. Clyde Crasto of the NCP also joins us this evening. Ajay Kumar, let's start off with you, because it's the Congress party that's literally named most of the categories, from the struggling sectors to the poor and the vulnerable and the farmers, and said, well, the government seems to have forgotten everybody. But if that's the case, where is the government's money going?
Look, Tanvi, first of all, if you have to break it into the six main salient features on this budget, the first thing of this budget is the defense part. You correctly said that one of the biggest challenges in India's at least national security period for a very, very long time has been the Chinese transgression. And there was no mention of the defense at all. So for a government which keeps talking on the defense, I think it's been one of the biggest letdown. After Galwan and everything else, you would have expected the government to be very serious about national security and the defense. So I think that's one. The second issue is, if you look at the health budget, and I was listening to you saying that there is a 147% increase, but if you look at the numbers and you break it down, then 45,000 crores is coming through the Finance Commission allotment, 35,000 crores one-time COVID vaccine, and then the Finance Minister interestingly includes sanitation and drinking water in the healthcare budget. So if you look at the numbers and further study the budget, last year it was 70,000 crores, it has become 74,000 crores. The third part is, The country has spent so many years trying to create public sector banks and undertakings so that there is a healthy competition. And privatization of banks, people are not understood. I mean, at least from I hope people would get to understand. The public sector bank plays a huge role in terms of student loans, in terms of farmer loans, in terms of loans to MSMEs, in terms of small health groups. Now, if you get rid of the public sector banks, which is the intent by the time they finish it, they're going to do it two and then they're going to continue and finish it off. If that is the case, then you'll have no loans available for any of the poor students and the small health groups, and also there will be a huge impact on loan as an instrument of public welfare. The fourth part is obviously the increase in petrol and diesel across. Not only will it have an inflationary trend, but it's also a cess, so they won't share the benefit with the states, and everything will become more expensive. The middle class is going, and middle class farmers, women, gas cylinder, everything is going to get expensive.
No, but the cess is not going to impact the buyers, Dr. Ajay Kumar. The cess is only going to negatively impact maybe the state governments because they won't get as much money. But you and I don't have to pay more. The government claims that our payment for fuel price hike doesn't get impacted.
Let me just tell you something. How is it possible that you increase cess and you don't pay more?
Because they reduce the excise duty.
This is kind of
No, but Dr. Ajay Kumar, because they reduce the excise duty on fuel. And when you reduce the excise duty on fuel, the division of money between center and state gets impacted, and the center actually recovers that with the cess.
Tanvi, I'll just complete. I'm totally aghast. Okay. Has the government said they're reducing excise duty?
Yes,
Yes.
they
Has
have.
the government made a statement that they're going to reduce the excise duty on fuel?
Yes.
Yes,
They have not said that.
No, they have.
They have.
So you come and say the prices won't come down.
So I'll tell you something, Dr. Ajay Kumar. I understand where you're coming from because honestly, we've also learned it the hard way, but not everything gets announced in the budget speech, or sometimes we end up missing it as well. But here is the part, and I'm reading now from the budget document, the official document on the government website that says that consequent to this cess, the agri cess, the basic excise duty and the special additional excise duty rates have been reduced so that the overall consumer does not bear any additional burden. Now, of course, Clyde, you still have a cause to complain because that effectively means that your share of the customs duty and the fuel tax goes down while the government manages to still get some more money via the cess.
No, that's not the point. That's exactly what I was trying to say. What Dr. Ajay actually broke it down clearly. Can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So Dr. Ajay was breaking it down, and you said no. It's not going to be a burden on the consumer. The point here is, for example, procurement of dal. You say the custom duty has been increased, but there's going to be no burden, and the taxes are not going to be levied. So I don't understand. The fact is, you explained this to me. It's like taking it from here, but not taking it from here. The point here is at some point, whether it's the state government or somewhere, it is going to burden the consumer. Like you said, everything cannot be said in the budget speech. 1 minute, let me finish now. Amanji, let me finish. Like you said, everything cannot be explained in the budget. Okay, so you have to go to the annexure. Like earlier, Dr. Ajay said also, same thing with the health infrastructure. I mean, such a big noise, about 137% has been increased. Well, he broke it down just now and told you how health, the sanitation department, and 35,000 crores was for the one-time COVID vaccination. Okay, so effectively only 10% has been increased. At the same time, we are talking about defense. Now there's a report by your newspaper, Times of India. It says that only 1.4% has been increased in the military, the defense budget. When the experts kept saying that increase it by 2.5%. Okay, now that's how it is. Now it cannot be explained. I'll tell you what it says. I'll just read out what has been told. It says the 4.78 lakh crore defense budget also includes 1.15 lakh crore as defense pensions for retired military personnel. That's a very good thing. But at the end of the day, when we are having problems with China and Pakistan, your defense budget is only like 1.4%. Why not there? Then you're talking about digital India. Okay, you keep talking about digital India. You increase the custom duty on mobile parts, on chargers, and everything related.
Yes.
Amanji, have some patience. No, you'll have all your time. Let me finish. So if you are talking about digital India, and if you are going to increase the mobile prices, no. Listen, if it doesn't suit you, stop interjecting. I thought you're an intelligent man and a well-behaved man, so please don't
I
stop
do not
interjecting
need your
because I will not
certificate.
interject you.
If you have anything
Yeah,
to
so
say
I
in
don't need your
substance,
certificate
please
to
say.
interject me.
I
One
am
minute,
not here.
gentlemen. Now, 1 minute, gentlemen. Now we're going to just waste time arguing, which will not lead us anywhere. We've got some constructive points going. Aman Sinha, I will give you fair amount of time to respond to all of those. Let him just finish in the next 30 seconds. Yes.
I don't like this kind of thing, so I will not interject. Now, let me finish this point. Can I talk, please?
You go ahead. You
Okay.
say whatever you have to
No,
say. Do
I'm
not
not
make
asking
any
your
personal
permission.
comments here.
I don't need permission from Aman Sinha from BJP to give me permission to
Oh,
talk.
I'm
I'm
not
asking
giving you
Tanvi
any
and Vinay.
permission.
So,
If you
yeah,
have
so
to
keep
say
quiet.
Clyde, let's stick to the point.
Keep
Okay,
quiet.
can I just hear Clyde make his point, please, so that Aman Sinha can respond? Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Tanvi. Thank you very much. My point here is you talk about digital India all the time. You talk about, big pictures that you play. You will go ahead and increase the duties on mobile parts and chargers and all that things related to mobile. See, in a time like this, let me put it this way, very simple. In a time like this, we have just suffered through this huge pandemic. If at all the government can do something, it should actually think in terms of the people. Taken a burden, take a little bit more burden and help the common man. You kept talking about how the FDI, foreign direct investment, complained about it. Today, look what is happening with, 74% FDI in LIC. What is going on? So the point here is you create a rosy picture. You keep talking about big things, but there's nothing to it.
Okay,
I mean,
let me
Mumbai
get.
to
I have picked up
Kanyakumari highway,
two or three
there's already
operative
a highway
points
from Bangalore to
between what the
Kanyakumari.
Congress
What are
and the
you going to do?
NCP have said. Let Aman Sinha respond to them. Point number one, no mention of the defense budget. Why not step it up at a time when you are facing an adversary like China? Point number two, effective healthcare budget hike is not 137% or 135% as being claimed by the government. And point number three, about if you're talking about digital India, then why are you imposing these duties? Aman Sinha.
Thank you very much, Tanvi. And I was listening patiently to everyone. I'm sure the same courtesy will be extended to me. Now, let me say, Tanvi, that this is a historic transformational budget. It lays foundation of a modern developed India, a modern developed economy, India which will lead the post-COVID new world order. Now, people were apprehensive about, COVID tax and, more taxes being imposed on direct taxes being imposed on high net worth individuals, etc. Not a single iota head of tax has been imposed. Now, let me say, Tanvi, that my friends were reading out some of the allocations. They should go back and read the allocations which were there in the UPA time. I can assure you, Tanvi, today we have the highest ever allocation in the health sector. Today we have the highest ever allocation in the education sector. We have highest ever allocation in the housing, railway, transport and highways, agriculture, rural, MHA and food. And you know which is the sector with the highest allocation? Which is about double the other allocation or the next one which is there. It is the defense sector. Allocation running into 4.78 lakh crores. And my friends, they say that they have missed it. How can that be possible? Now, just look at the bankruptcy of the opposition, Tanvi, that they were allocating a minuscule percentage of this. I mean, some of the allocations were not even 1/3 of it. And they are finding fault with this. What is your problem? Go back and see what you were doing and what this government is doing.
Okay.
And look at the stark contrast. Now,
Tanvi.
I can go sector by sector. Tanvi, you asked about the defense allocation.
Yes.
The defense allocation is the highest ever allocation. You also would have noted it, Tanvi. It is 4.78 lakh crores. And it is much higher than last time around. It is certainly about double what UPA was giving. Now, that apart, what was your second
The
query,
healthcare
Tanvi?
budget, effectively, it's not a 135% hike, but far lesser than that, 10 to 35%. The numbers vary depending on what all you include in healthcare.
I'll tell you. In fact, my friend Ajay ji was saying that water is included in that. Jal
Yes.
Jeevan Mission is a separate head, and it is a major expense head which is there in urban development and housing program. And look at the allocations of that. That is about 54,581 crores. So therefore, you are mistaken. And let me say,
No, Mr. Aman Sinha, I think there is some confusion there then, because the breakup
allow me
of
to
the
complete,
2.24 definitely
I am
adds in the Jal
responding to your
Jeevan.
query.
Mr.
Now,
Aman Sinha,
please
I
tell
think
me,
there is some confusion there on Jal Jeevan. The breakup
can
of
you
the
just
2.24 crore, which is essentially the 74,000 crore allocation for the health, does include after that the vaccine fund, the finance grants, it includes the Jal Jeevan, it also includes the Swachh Bharat. Now, you can argue, and I will give
why
you the
is
point to
not?
say,
No.
well, all of this is still health,
Sanitation,
so why not?
sanitation
Sanitation is
is part of
important.
Ministry of Health, Welfare and Sanitation. That
Yeah,
is the entire name of the ministry.
correct.
But let me tell you at the same time that people are finding fault with these things. I'm aghast because they say that defense pension should not be a part of the defense allocation. Oh, hello. What was it during your
No, no,
time?
1 minute, 1
Was it
minute.
not
Can I
under
come
the
in
same
now?
defense allocation? So therefore,
Tanvi,
Can I
Tanvi,
come
what
in
it
now?
shows is that there is complete bankruptcy on part of the opposition. They have no criticism to make, and therefore, just for the heck of criticizing, they are saying these things.
Tanvi,
Okay,
Now,
okay.
look at
So
what has been done
okay, all
over
right, all
here.
right. You
If I
responded
can
to these.
proceed
1 minute,
sector-wise, Tanvi.
gentlemen, and to Dr. Ajay Kumar and Clyde. You will have to be a little patient, just as patient as Fuad Halim and Professor Mishra have been there yet to make their opening comments.
please.
So let me go across to
Yeah, yeah.
Fuad Halim
Tanvi,
first.
can I just go sector-wise briefly?
The defense and the healthcare were the most operative ones. I'm sure, Aman, when the others raise issues, you will have your turn to respond to those as well. And I will give you that fair time since you are the representative of the BJP here. But Dr.
Yes,
Fuad
Tanvi,
Halim,
because
here is the argument. When the defense
1:45.
budget is already one of the highest ever and the government has stepped up on it in the last couple of years already, then why are we complaining? Yes, it may not be factoring in enough of inflation and adding to it, but we're already at a peak. So what is the problem?
Well, the problem is that when you're discussing the budget, then definitely the figures are one part of it. The second part of it is evaluating how the government has performed over the past 1 year. And what do we get to know of the government's performance over the past 1 year? We've got 100 billionaires who will increase their wealth by 13 lakh crores. And we've been through this immense lockdown in which the purchasing power of the common man has been absolutely devastated. In that context, our government has actually delivered to the richest of the richest. There is no V-shaped recovery. There's a K-shaped recovery. The poor are going to get poorer in India. The rich are getting richer in India thanks to Narendra Modi. The second point I'd like to definitely what you call bring into focus. Definitely, you all have chosen defense and health as your keystones for discussion. But I would like to bring in Manrega because Manrega is the tool through which the government actually reaches the poorest of the poor, and they've slashed that by 42%. Now, you have to keep in mind that if India's recovery has to come back, it has to come back based on the purchasing power of the poorest of the poor. And that is not happening in India. And that doesn't seem to be an idea that is impacting the government. 20 lakh crore package that was earlier given by the government has all been skimmed off by the richest of the richest in India. The poorest of the poor have been left behind. Now, I will definitely expand my conversation, taking your suggestion that health needs to be discussed. Health in real terms has actually contracted. If you look at what the government is actually spending, and if you balance out for inflation, there is actually very little growth in the health sector, spending in terms of how the government is trying to look forward to giving health to the people of India. Now, given that context, we need to understand that the experience, the seminal experience of smallpox, the experience of polio, which are two virus, what you call cause, that is not being taken forward by the government of India. If you're going to spend 35,000 crores on vaccine, you're not vaccinating 130 crore people of India. So you're going to end up vaccinating just a part of the population. So that itself tells you that the government is planning health in a very haphazard fashion. In COVID pandemic, if you're not going to take the lessons learned given by smallpox, by polio, and you're going to just vaccinate part of the population, you leave the rest of the population up to market forces. He who has money will purchase and take the vaccine. We are not confronting COVID the way we should.
No, but the states can take the responsibility. What's there in that? Why does the center have to bear all the burden? If you feel there are people in your state who will not be able to bear the cost of it, by all means go and make it available to them.
Front because
That-
misleading
let's
statements
very
should not
clear
be given
that-
with respect
that
to
the-
vaccine and healthcare. This
that
is
the-
this
the-
is absolutely in contravention to Epidemic
Please, that-
Diseases Act, and the force of
You
law.
can
Absolutely.
take me.
No, you
But I
cannot
don't mind.
mislead with respect to vaccination.
I
How presumptuous of you to say that
Okay, no, one minute, Aman
everybody is
Sinha.
not
I'm
going
not
to
able
get
to hear what
vaccinated?
Fuad Alim
What
is
is the
saying.
basis
I'm
of
not
saying
too
so?
sure if he was finished with
now
the vaccine point.
in the federal context, as far as COVID-19 is
Please allow me to
concerned,
Yeah.
respond.
if the state and the central government combined what you call decided upon their respective roles, even if it was a partisan role, the central will pay for part of it, the states will pay a part of it. There was a worked out formula to have a collective what you call decision how to confront COVID-19. Center is going to play part and parcel of the role. They leave it the door open that they participate or not participate. This
Okay,
is not the way you confront.
let me get Aman Sinha to respond, and then I also want to bring in Vinay on this as well. But yes, Aman Sinha.
Please, Tanvi, may I come in?
Professor
It's not
Mishra,
in my
I'm coming to you
thought.
next
It
for
is
sure.
fair on me.
No, no, absolutely. But let's also understand that BJP has to respond to each one of you parties and the points that you're
but then that
raising.
is,
So let's go
our
point by point.
responsibility.
Professor Mishra, coming to you next. Yeah.
So Tanvi, I'm grateful, Tanvi, because this is 1:4-5. So please at least allow me an opportunity to respond. I do not want anything more. Now, Tanvi, let me say that what my friend from CPM is saying is absolutely predictable discourse, and that is why you can see why these people have been rejected repeatedly in polls after polls. Now, today he's sitting here and committing a blatant patent illegality. How can he mislead with respect to vaccine? Who has told that entire population is not going to be vaccinated? Why should you presume such things and spread lies and canards about this? Now, as far as vaccination is concerned, a provision has been made in the budgetary allocations. Now, please keep quiet and listen.
Listen,
No,
no, you if you have to please
35,000
count
crore provision has been made in the budgetary allocation. If it is required later on, more allocations could be made.
Okay, okay. That is an operative part.
Instead of doing something constructive, no, Tanvi, just 10 seconds more on just on this point. Now, as far as fight against COVID is concerned, at least we should all be together. India is a country where the lowest infection rate has been prevailing since more than last 1 year. Lowest mortality rate, if it is anywhere there in the world, it is in India. We are the only country apart from USA which has 2 homegrown vaccines and 2 more are there in pipeline. And again, my friends from the Communist Party, they are repeatedly going on this discourse, and therefore they have been completely rejected by people time and again.
Well, I think the debate on vaccine, Mr. Fuad Alim, gets settled with the fact that the BJP here is saying that if there need be, we will allocate more funds.
Yes,
That's a
yes,
necessity. We've just about started, and we've been
Well,
very
the
clear about the
vaccination to
funding
people
and
of
where it
Bihar.
is concerned.
But it's not-
Now, if you all
but we should
gentlemen
not
will
take
allow
in
me,
history
let us also show
statement
some courtesy to
against
Professor
vaccine.
Mishra, who's patiently heard everybody out and patiently waited for his turn. Yes, Professor Mishra, go ahead, please.
Thank you. See this budget, almost everyone who has understanding of economy, they have already made their opinion outside this studio mostly, and that this budget is actually a very poor exercise, dismal. Visionless budget, I would say. But then the mission is very clear. I am going to give it to BJP government that they are now quite openly admitting something that they were ashamed. And the Prime Minister himself had said that he is not going to privatize railways. Now, even insurance sector, FDI up to 74%. This is absolutely unacceptable. This is not going to help our economy at all. Economy has suffered a disastrous blow because of the so-called note bandi. And then we had the 700 time amended GST, and we do know what that has done to our economy. The way we are privatizing, the government is encouraging. So every profitable sector in the public sphere, these are now being sold. With what aim? This is an absolute farce that the economy is for public good. It is not. Just imagine a situation where 99% of the population in different categories and brackets, they have lost their income over the last 2 years specifically, and more particularly last year. And that how come some of the corporate houses, they have been able to increase their property manifold. How do we reconcile this?
Okay, I will take that point. I understand the point that you're making.
The BJP spokesperson talked about the rejection by the public. Let me tell him that the RSS ideology has been rejected for the last 90 years. And it is going to be...
Okay. Well, let's not go down that road, Professor Mishra. Then we're going to be completely derailed to the conversation that we are having right now. I will take the point that you made. It was earlier also raised by another panelist that this is not a V-shaped recovery. It's a K-shaped recovery with the gap between the haves and the have-nots only increasing, Amman Sinha, and the blame is being put on you.
May I respond, Tanvi, quickly?
Yes.
Now, first of all, we heard a very longish speech from the TMC spokesperson. Not a single cogent specific substantive point was made. Now, what do these people think? That they can just utter anything out of their mouth and everybody is going to believe them? Just consider the situation which we were in when this global pandemic hit us. We were not producing one vaccine, one PPE kit, one medical infrastructure, which was the infrastructure which was required to fight COVID. Only one testing lab was there. Where we are today, we have, the government, even in these adverse times, has ushered in massive welfare programs. They have been the biggest welfare programs in the world. Under leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, each and every, more than 80 crore people, they have got their grain, basic food supply at their home. Everybody today has a gas connection, has a bank account. Today we are taking tap water to each and every household. There are massive projects of housing for all. There are n number of massive welfare projects which have been ushered in even during the times of pandemic. And these people just come here and make sweeping blanket statements. They just start, attributing something to some capitalist. Now, let me tell you, what is your agenda? Are you, if you are against disinvestment and privatization, that should have been your approach earlier also. And you should make a statement to that effect. Why is Mamata Banerjee going on scouting investments in state of West Bengal? If that is your stand.
You have remembered road building in Assam, Bengal and Kerala just because it's the poll time. Have you fulfilled your promise about the special package to Bihar? Have you done that?
Fulfilled all our promises.
Therefore, stop.
Well, I think we will all agree, gentlemen, that the announcements that were made for the poll-bound states are not going to impact or benefit or harm anybody. 1 minute, please. I think everybody knows when you talk about infrastructure outlay, it's a long-term plan. It's not going to really benefit, any party when they go to vote in the month of May, whether it's in West Bengal or Kerala or Tamil Nadu. Let's be honest. So the BJP can make these announcements, but I think the voter is smart enough to also see through it and see that it's a poll-bound stop, which won't really change their life. Dr. Ajay Kumar, to you.
I'm sorry, Tanvi, if I just quickly responding to you, Tanvi, because
there
have been, in fact, Eastern India
one at a time, please. One at a time.
Several counts. There were several backlog infrastructural projects. Prime Minister has always said, look east, when each and every minister of our cabinet.
Sure, yes. No, Amal Sinha, let's be honest. Of course, the Prime Minister has always said that. But Nirmala Sitharaman, the Finance Minister, effectively went in one breath naming Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Bengal and Assam. Let's be honest, what it meant. No other state in that entire paragraph was named. Dr. Ajay Kumar, please.
We are running into 1.1 lakh crores and these roads are being built.
Ajay Kumar, please. Ajay Kumar, can I please hear him? Yes.
See, the problem is, Amanji is a very well-informed person, but he forgets that, when you say the BJP was objecting to FDI for 20% during the UPA time. So that's the whole thing is to suddenly say that they are the greatest champion of, liberalization. This is on record. They objected to 20% FDI investment in the insurance sector. Forget that. So history has a strange way to catching up with all of us. My question is, Aman is doing a decent job trying to defend the BJP, but it's actually indefensible for a couple of reasons. Correctly said by my colleague from the CPI, that Manrega budget has been slashed by 40,000 crores. Even something like the gas cylinder, was a good idea. We are not saying it was a bad idea, but since the gas cylinder prices are going so high, 85% of the women are not getting refills of the people who are getting free gas cylinders. So the issue is not that. The issue is the budget is inflationary. You can't deny that. And the fact is that there is nothing for the farmer, there is nothing for the laborer, there is nothing for the women, there is nothing for the middle class. If you show me something which will excite us, and the most important point is on vaccination. I hope the government will make a budget for vaccination, but on 35,000 crores, even if you divide by 200 rupees per vaccine shot and other expenditure, the total population, because their budget is 35,000 crores, so we can only go by those 35,000 crores.
Yes.
Now, I can't believe the promise that they will increase if they have to. They might or may not, but on paper, it's only 35,000 crores. That 35,000 crore gets you less than 10 to 15% of the population of India. The most important part, and I'm coming to the significant portion is, every budget, Amanji, increases. So you can't say it was the highest. Next year it will be the highest. When we came after Vajpayee ji, we had the highest budget. After Atal Bihari Vajpayee, when UPA came, we were higher than him. So this is a very specious argument. The fact is that the defense budget is only a 4,000 crore increase, and which is less than inflation.
Okay.
With China breathing and making such a nuisance of itself, it's a serious issue. So our thing is, this budget will pan out in a very dangerous way. Last, most important.
Okay, all right. I have noted down some of the points, and I think so has Aman Sinha.
5 seconds.
Yes.
Just 5 seconds. Last 5 seconds. This was the budget for 21-22. The finance minister gave a 5-year roadmap. Now, what will happen in 2023, 24, 25? Anything will happen. I'm saying, please, let's stick to the facts. And my request is that the budget has got nothing for the farmers. Kisan Samman Yojana deduction. They keep saying farmer, and they reduce the Kisan Samman Yojana budget from I think 70,000 crores to 65,000 crores. So Kisan ka Samman to aapne to बेइज्जत करा दिया अमन जी.
Okay. I've taken that point on agriculture. I've taken those points. Let Clyde also add his points, and then Aman, I will give you time to respond to those. Meanwhile, I'll also pull out some numbers to really add to what Ajay Kumar was saying. Yes, Clyde.
Okay, Tani, 2-3 things, and I've been patiently listening. Okay, now first and foremost, when you said that when the announcement was being made, the voter is smart enough to know that whether it's for poll-bound states or not. And let me tell you, even the people of this country are very smart enough to know when the finance minister takes the name of 4 different states, West Bengal, Assam, Kerala, and Tamil Nadu, in one breath, that we all know what he's hinting at. That's fair enough. And also the fact that when you say that announcements can be made and things can be done, it will be done. And then I think the finance minister should also have said that whether the people of Bihar will get free vaccination, because she did make that promise there, right? Fair enough. Secondly, what I'm also trying to say, I had a little smirk on my face when Aman Sinha said that gas in every household. Well, that reminds me of a picture of my dear friend Sambit Patra. He's a dear friend. Sambit Patra sitting somewhere during his campaign, and sitting next to a chula and saying chule ka khana khaya. So what happened to the gas cylinder correction in every home? That's the other part. Now the third thing, and the third thing I'd like to tell you is that nobody is against any allocation to any department, whether it's drinking water, sanitation, whether it's pensions for the military people. Nobody is against about anything. The problem here is when you package together something and show only the big rosy picture and you don't go into the actual details, that's where the question that we raise. We are in support of everything.
All right.
Let me tell you one final point, please, 10 seconds. My final point is, Aman Sinha kept talking about bankruptcy of the opposition and everything. Let me tell you something. I'm definitely sure that the BJP is not bankrupting hoodwinking people. They are wealthy in hoodwinking people, and that's what they're doing right now.
I just want to be a little honest here. We've got such passionate and vociferous panelists, political panelists tonight, that I think I may end up getting a little bit of hypertension here, trying to speed through all of this and give all of you time to make your points, lest one of you blame me for being biased. But let me just,
Can we
Can
just imagine,
I-
Samvit Patra sitting next to a chula and eating a nice roti? That will feel like, no hypertension.
May I
Like you
respond
like.
now, Tanvi?
Yes, yes. No, in fact, Professor Mishra, I will come to you. But, let's just put this in perspective, Aman Sinha, for you to respond. We spoke about the defense budget, which hasn't gone up at all. And questions are being raised whether even if you factor in inflation, if this much is enough. And you've responded to that. We've spoken about healthcare, that while, yes, the government acknowledges you need to spend more, it just looks as you've brought in 5 different departments ka kharcha and said together it looks very big. Now let's speak. Dr. Ajay Kumar raised the issue of agriculture. Agriculture and its allied activities. The budget allocation has actually been reduced from 1.54 crore to 1.48 thousand crore, from 1.54 lakh crore to 1.48 lakh crore. In fact, not just that, even if the PM Kisan Samman Nidhi Yojana, it's been reduced from 75,000 crore to 65,000 crore. So the charge from the opposition is, सब जगह तो आप budget काटते जा रहे हैं, तो ये फायदा कैसे हुआ?
No, Tanvi, thank you very much. I will respond to it. But let me say, I was just seeing the figures. You gave figures of agricultural allocation. Now you just see agriculture and rural development also, because they are both addressing to the same sector, the same agrarian and rural sector of the economy. The allocation to agriculture sector is 1,31,000 crores, and to rural sector is 1,33,000 crores. So, and all put together, and let me say, Kisan Samman Nidhi has just been dispersed, and as I mentioned to you, the government is, this Kisan Samman Nidhi has been initiated under leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi in this government, and the government is obliged, committed to legally make those payouts quarterly, and therefore we will do it. It is our legal obligation. We have ourselves bound ourselves to that, and we are committed to doing it. What is the point of questioning? The government is committed to do that, and we will do that. Already disbursements running into more than tens and thousands of crores which have been made. So therefore, put together, agriculture and rural development comes to somewhere around 2,75,000 crores, or in excess of that, the present budgetary allocations I am saying, which is highest ever budgetary allocations to these sectors. Now let me say, they were waxing eloquent about NCP and Congress being great. They helped farmers during those times. I'll tell you how they had helped. Now, in 2013, MSP procurement for wheat was 33,000 crores, which this present government has already increased to more than 75,000 crores, more than double, about 250%. Rice procurement earlier was 63,000 crores. We have made it 172,000 crores, about 3 times than what was happening during UPA times. And pulses from 236,000, it has come to 10.5 thousand crores. And so therefore, this is a manifold increase, not only in terms of the quantity of procurement, even the pricing has been increased. Now that apart, my friend, our good friend Ajay ji was asking what else has been done. There is a new Swamitva Yojana, which perhaps Ajay ji might have noted because he works sometimes in rural areas. I do not know about others, or if he has not noted, he must note it. That under this Swamitva Yojana, there is right to property which has already been granted to 1.80 lakh people in villages, in about 1,241 villages. Now, that apart, each and every sector of the economy, when it's it kickstarts, there is economic activity, and rural India today is the impetus which has been provided to rural India by the present budget is going to help farmers, our farming incomes, and that too with the added amendment to the Farmers Act that is going to have immense benefit for the farmers. Let me come to some of the more specifics.
Yes.
More specifics of agriculture.
Yes.
Now that apart, on the Finance Act, also I can tell you, Tanvi. Now Finance Act, you have seen that customs duty on certain silk products which were imported, that has been hiked so that our domestic farmers, those who are in silk industry, and farmers who are indulging in who are involving in silk farming, they are helped. Thereafter, there is a withdrawal of end use based concession on denatured ethyl alcohol, which is going to help large number of sugarcane farmers. Agriculture infrastructure development says on small number of items which has been imposed will go directly towards giving impetus to agriculture
Okay.
primarily, and then infrastructure
Well,
secondly.
that will open up another debate about whether some of these high custom duty
No, I'm
moves.
still on agriculture. If you want to have more specifics, I can.
No, we will
certainly
stick to agriculture. Agriculture is extremely important. In fact, I will add to the point that you've made as I go to Professor Mishra, because the opposition has
But then
raised
please allow me to
agriculture
complete on
and farmers
agriculture,
and Kisan as a big issue. But Professor Mishra today again, multiple times the finance minister gave data that shows that the government procurement under MSP, procurement for wheat and paddy has gone up. Many of the announcements, some of which Aman Sinha just referred to, also goes on to show that the government intends to continue with setting up of more infrastructure facilities in the mandis. The mandis that you all say will go away, will vanish, will be dismantled. Here is the government actually announcing more plans for the same APMC markets.
Tanvi, the central government has not, I repeat, not given the food subsidy for the past 7-8 months to my state. And I'm sure that this is also correct about many other states. Secondly, there is already a discussion on the Krishi Samman Nidhi. I am not surprised that the allocations have really come down. Here, they want to push this into West Bengal, whereas they have failed to justify how this particular scheme is superior to the scheme that we have here launched in Bengal. The same is correct about Ayushman Bharat. Here a much better, much more expansive and much more quality-centered program is already there in the form of Swasthya Sati. You spoke about the poll-bound states. Well, why they would like to spend money, say, on West Bengal? Let them spend it on the farmers. In fact, the farmers are fighting for their right. Our economy is going to come under severe strain with these 3 laws which have been passed most unconstitutionally. Someone here in this panel is so impressed about higher allocation. Well, allocation during Indira Gandhi time was higher than Lal Bahadur Shastri, and P.V. Narasimha Rao's time it was higher than Indira Gandhi's time. So you are collecting, we are collecting much more tax. And so therefore, naturally the allocation would go higher. It is a question is the percentage and the question is the qualitative improvement. Just see what you have done with the health. You are claiming something, but then the reality is that the increase is only 7%.
Yes.
Because allocation is for 6 years, very high allocation that you are talking about, then you have to distribute it over the 6 years. So the actual increase is actually near 7%, even in a sort of COVID and post-COVID situation.
No, that's actually just one scheme. That is just a part of the overall healthcare thing. The Swasthya scheme, which is roughly for about 60,000 crore rupees. Fuad Alim. Fuad Alim wants to make a point. Yes.
I just want to make a point.
One minute, please. 1 minute. Yes, Fuad Alim.
If you look at the central government's total budgeted expenditure is 34.8 lakh crores
Correct.
for 2021-22, which is identical in nominal terms to total expenditure of 2021. Last year's total expenditure and this year's total expenditure in nominal terms is identical. Now, if you got sectoral allocations which the government would like to sell as a conversation point that it is doing something better, then one has to understand that in actuality it is not happening. They are just juggling and shifting it around. And what is problematic, I tell you, Tanvi, that the corporate tax and the income tax collections, which
Tanvi,
Oh,
may
we
I
seem to
quickly
have lost that
respond?
line with Fuad Arim. But Aman Sinha, allow me to respond to this as because it's a very simple thing. It's not to say, well, the overall 35 lakh crore budget allocation is the same as the last year. So what is it that the government is talking about? The scenario has changed. The scenario has actually changed from a time when we were looking at an economic slowdown, but still a growth rate of 4% to an economy which is contracting at 8%. From 4% growth to a contraction of 8%. The government is not getting money. They've still admitted that they're going to be borrowing more money and foregoing their fiscal math and still be spending this money. It has to be seen in a context of it. While I agree that in a lot of these cases, it's still a lot of jod-tod to give us a very big number and a huge mathematical figure to say, oh, look, we are spending so much of money. At the end of the day, let's also be realistic. Where is the government getting the money from? If businesses are not functioning, if economy is contracting, the government's tax revenues are also down and out. So the government also has those limited options in that every sector, every category of citizens and every earning class had a big hope from the government. Keep all of that in mind before you judge what has been announced. Completely out of time on this edition of The Conversation with our political representatives on Urban Debate. Thank you so much for joining us.